Welcome back to another class on Evean Hazaer Halacha series. We are continuing in Siman Aleph, Halacha Tet. This will be part 2 of the Shi'ur. A very interesting Bash. The Bash wants to resolve a question. Can a woman forgo her rights when it comes to She'er Kisut and Ona? Food, clothing, and relations. Can the wife say, you know something? I'm fine with the minimum that you're going to give me, and I allow you to go ahead and take another wife on top of me. With her permission, is the husband allowed to go ahead and get married? You need to remember what the Halacha said before. The first opinion, meaning the Stam himself, the Shulchan Aruch, when he said, "No Adam Kama Nashim, v'hu Shalim Kayem B'Sipukaihu." A person is allowed to marry many women. That's provided that he has the means to sustain each one of them. But now, Rabotai, we are going to a different subject altogether. What happens? He has no means. Can he still marry two women? But with the permission of the wife. Because you have to remember what we saw in the Cham, in Od Yud Gimel, where he said it's really dependent on the woman to decide if it's going to affect her or not. If it's going to affect her, the food, the clothing, and not being able to have relations with the husband every time because now he's going to have another woman, then she can tell him, listen, I don't want it because you owe it to me. So we saw before that it's really dependent on the woman. But what happens right now if the woman says, you know something? I'm fine with it. I'm happy to have a roof under my head. Your name is called on my name, meaning your name is called on me. Like we saw in the Yeshaya's prophecy, that 7 women are going to grab one man and they're going to say, we'll eat our own food, we'll wear our own clothing, just let us have a husband on top of us. So maybe that's the type of woman. Maybe she really wants to give another woman a chance. What's going to be the halacha? Comes the Bash in Ot Yudchet and he says, in Dibra Matchil v'hu de'efshar limken b'supekaihu, hine im hi mochelet u'retzona listapek b'muot. If she forgives and she's going to be satisfied with the little that the husband is going to be able to provide for her. Bevadai rashai lisa afilu im I efshar limikem b'supekaihu. For sure, he's permitted to go ahead and marry another woman, another woman, even if it's impossible for him to go ahead and sustain both of them. Rabotai, I don't know if you guys are catching on to the words of the Bash. I want to read it one more time. If she forgives, she's going to overlook the clothing, the food, and the relations, and she's fine with the little that he's going to give her. The Bash says, "Bevadai rashai lisa afilu im I efshar limikem b'supekaihu." For sure, he's permitted to go ahead and marry another woman, even if it's impossible for him to have the means to sustain both of them. Rabotai, when I looked at this Bash, something bothered me very much. What is the Bash telling me? The Bash says it's her choice, correct? Like the Cham, he also said over here, V'chen katav b'cham, and so also the Cham wrote, right? It's really dependent on her. If she overlooks that wrongdoing by not having food, clothing, and relations, okay, good, he's allowed to go get married. But why is the Bash telling me that even if he does not have the means to sustain both women, it's okay for him to go ahead and get married? One second, I don't understand something. It says over here, Nose Adam Kama Nashim, the Halacha, the Shulchan Aruch says, Nose Adam Kama Nashim, a person is allowed to marry many women, but when is that? Vehu de'efshar limikem b'sipukaihu, that's provided that it's only possible if he has the means to sustain both of them or all of them. So how can you tell me now, Bash, that with her permission, even though he doesn't have the means, he's allowed to go ahead and get another woman? So not only she's not going to be able to be fed, she's also not going to be able to be fed. But the Shulchan Aruch said clearly, you can't take another woman if you don't have the means. The way the Bash is making it sound, even if you don't have the means, with her permission, you are allowed to go ahead and take another woman. You hear about that was bothering me? So, I don't know how many of you guys know, I said it before, I learned with a very big Talmud Chacham. He's also a doctor, right? Yosef Zaurov, he's actually a dentist. And I brought up this question to him. I said, come, you have to explain to me this back and forth. It wasn't making sense by me. So he explained it in a very nice way. He says, Rabbi, look, when the Shulchan Aruch says over here that a person is allowed to marry many women as long as he has the means to be able to provide for all of them, that's what the Shulchan Aruch said. But what about diyukim? What about making inferences? Did the Shulchan Aruch ever speak about what happens if he doesn't have money? He never spoke about it. That's why we have the Cham and the Bash. So it comes out from me like this, Rabbot. I listened to this very carefully. So there's a few steps. When the Shulchan Aruch said that a person is allowed to marry many women provided he has the means to sustain them, that he doesn't have to ask his wife for permission. The guy is a billionaire. The guy is a millionaire. He has a lot of money. He wants to marry another woman. He could go marry another woman. What's the problem? He wants to have 10 wives. He wants to have 20 wives. He could go ahead and marry 20 wives. Not one of them is going to be able to protest and hold him back from marrying the other woman. That's when, Rabotai, that's specifically when he has money. But the Shulchan Aruch never spoke to us about the case. What happens if he has no money? So, the Shulchan Aruch, so the Cham and the Bash are coming and telling you, 1 second, when he has no money, when it's hard for him to sustain one, now we're going to have to learn from the words of the Shulchan Aruch that it's okay for him to get married even if he doesn't have enough money, provided that she allows it. Rabotai, do you see what I just did? The second phase of the halacha is completely different halacha. Right now we're dealing with based off her permission. If she allows him, if he has money, I don't need her permission. If he has no money, it's really dependent on the woman. If she says, yes, I allow you to go and get another woman, even though that's going to take away from me, no problem. If she's fine with it, we're fine with it. He's allowed to go ahead and take another wife for himself. So let's see that one more time in the Bash. So the Bash comes and he says, if the woman forgives and she wants to be satisfied with the little that he's going to be able to give her, meaning food, clothing, and relations, for sure, he's permitted to marry another woman, even if it's impossible for him to have the means to sustain both of them. And this we saw actually in the Cham yesterday also, where he said that really when it comes to the case where the guy has no money, the decision is based of the woman if she's allowed. The decision is based from the woman if the guy is allowed to go ahead and marry another woman. If he wants to marry another woman and he doesn't have enough funds to marry another woman, and it's going to distract from her, she has every right to protest and say, no, I want to be able to eat normally, wear nice clothing, and I want to be able to be taken care of at night. She has the right to speak like that. But if she says, listen, I'm also fine with little food, little clothing, and little relations, no problem. We're going to tell her, we're going to tell him that with her permission, you are allowed to go ahead and get yourself another wife. Meanwhile, however, he says, Beyivama. However, whenever you are dealing with a Yivama, what is a Yivama? A Yivama is a person, is a lady, that unfortunately, Lo Leinu Chas V'Shalom, Rabotai, nobody should ever know of this, is her husband died without children. But the husband has a brother. So a Yivama falls back to the brother. Why? We know, Rabotai, that a wife is not allowed to marry two brothers. But in this case, the Torah made an exception. What's the exception? That since the brother died, meaning her husband, the original brother died childless, and he had no children, the Torah made an exception to revive his name. We want her to fall back on his other brother. So now she's called a Yivama. There's two things the guy can do right now. The other brother, the brother that is alive. There's two things that he can do now. One is Yibum. He can go ahead and marry her. Another thing is Chalitza. He can release her. By her taking off his shoes and spitting, she gets released. Comes the Bash and he says, Mihu, however, B'Yivama nir'eh, when you're dealing with the Yivama, this lady, what I just explained, it seems, Afilu imhi mochelet, even if she forgives, she says, I'm fine with little food, I'm fine with little clothing, I'm fine with little relations, I'm fine with all that. As long as I am able to revive your brother's name, I forgo my own honor. Mikol makom, nevertheless, mutal al bedin is placed on the bedin, liten la eitzat tova she'al tinaselo. The Jewish court is placed on them to go ahead and convince her and give her sound advice that she shouldn't marry him. Halachically, she can marry him, like we saw before, because even though he's taking her as a second wife, but we're going to tell her, as sound advice, don't marry him. He's bringing all these sources where it's implied that when it comes to Rabotai, when it comes to a wife allowing her husband to marry another woman, we're going to give it to him with her permission, even if he doesn't have enough means to sustain both of them. But when it comes to Yivama, even though Yivama is allowed to go ahead and get married to this brother that already has a wife, even though he doesn't have the means, she's allowed to get married because she falls on him automatically. Nevertheless, we're going to tell the Jewish court, speak to her and give her sound advice not to marry the deceased brother.